Hello, Richie. Hope you're well. I was looking back and I realised that I hadn't actually filmed a reading update, as it were, in the entirety of August, which is despicable. Instead of a weekly reads or Friday reads, this is, I suppose, going to be an August reading wrap up. I haven't got a lot to speak about in August. It wasn't a particularly good reading month for me in terms of the quantity that I read. I ended up getting bogged down with one novel. Um, and also I was just exceptionally busy with work life and social life and family life, and um, I didn't end up reading that much. I have got next week off work. So although I'm going on holiday this evening for a few days with friends, I haven't really got much planned for the week ahead. So I'll probably get some reading done. I'll probably end up just playing golf and things. But other than that, I'll have plenty of time to be reading. Women Translation Month did kind of fall by the wayside. What I'll probably end up doing is just letting it spill over into September and into October and maintain my TBR and just as long as it takes, read those books. But I did just last night finish Elena Knows by Claudia Piñeiro, and translated by Francis Riddle from the Spanish and Argentinian novel. And I really quite liked it. It's quite a slim little book. Uh, Claudia Piñeiro was, according to, there's an afterword by Fiona McIntosh in here, Dr. Fiona McIntosh, who is signs off from University of Edinburgh from March 2021. Bridget talks about how Claudia Piñeiro was primarily known as a crime writer, and I believe there have been a few of her, or at least a couple of her crime novels published in English, and they've been quite successful. And which is really quite interesting because this is a literary novel primarily, and you often see literary writers venture into the crime genre, but it's not so often that you see crime writers venture into literary genre. I know there's a lot of overlap sometimes, but so this is very much a literary novel with it has a sort of like a kernel of mystery at its heart, but it's a novel which seems to be sort of resisting the crime genre. It's about the mother, Elena, and her daughter, who Rita, who has supposedly committed suicide or hanging herself in a church. And the point is that Elena knows, and this becomes a refrain in the novel, the phrase Elena knows, that, or what it really means is she believes that her daughter didn't commit suicide, because she never went to church when it was raining and there was a thunderstorm on the day it happened, and she has her suspicions about people, and the point of the novel is her going on this sort of voyage of discovery. Takes place over a day, and it's about her getting the bus, and she's weighed down by Parkinson's, which I'll talk about in a moment. And I don't want to. I try not to say too much because although I don't think it's a book you can really spoil, I don't want to spoil anything about it for especially towards the end. But it revolves around this sort of mystery, but it's very much takes place in sort of the head of Elena. And So the phrase Elena knows it sort of becomes a sort of a mantra, and in a way which reminded me of "So It Goes" in Slaughterhouse-5. That phrase which occurs again and again every time death is mentioned in Slaughterhouse-5. Trying to think of other examples. I'm sure there are other examples. Ducks Newburyport maybe is the sort of the negative of that is, I think that in that novel, the phrase "Duck Newburyport" appears once, and obviously it's a huge novel, so when it does appear, it's like, whew, it's like, so anyway, yeah, so Elena suffers from Parkinson's, and she's sort of conflicted about Parkinson's because she considers it in one way it's a masculine thing because it's named after Parkinson, a sort of English scientist who first identified the disease, but it's also she considers it a feminine disease, and she calls it her and herself, like she'll get about as long as herself permits me to, and in a way the writing itself is I have no idea if this is intentional or not, but it seems to me to be sort of restricted by a sort of Parkinson's. It's obviously the novel is very short, but the paragraphs are quite long and everything's compressed. The writing's very sort of straight and rigid, and even the the dialogue isn't indented. It's all contained in long paragraphs, and it's just italicized. And even when there's a change of speaker, there's no indentation. It's all just sort of together. It's not highly experimental writing or anything like that, as I was actually expecting it to be more sort of stream of consciousness, because I'd heard that it takes place in one day, but it's actually very plainly written, but yeah, so the novel, it didn't blow me away, I have to say, but I really did like it. It was an absorbing little book, and I would be interested to read her crime writing, to see if there's any traces of her literary talent in that. I should say it's also, it's a social political novel, highly sort of with feminist themes, and the main thing about it is it's sort of commentary on abortion, and I should say, I didn't know this, but this was originally published in 2007, I think. It's about 15 years old. It's only just been translated, obviously, and it's quite surreal that it's been up for the International Book Prize, because we associate that prize with contemporary novels or current novels, and it's kind of weird to think that a novel was 15 years old. But it's a timeless novel, and it talks about urgent issues like abortion, which is obviously an urgent issue for people in some parts of the world, certain parts of the world. But yeah, I did really enjoy it. It was a very absorbing little book, and so very very glad I read that. I'm also currently reading. It's so nice to be able to show you books and on this high quality camera, so you can actually see what I'm holding up now. But I'm also reading The Eye's Mind, the collected writings of Bridget Riley, edited by Robert Kodielka, and this has been really really fascinating so far. I guess I'm about halfway through it. But it starts out with autobiographical stuff. She's some of it's interviews, but there's also some writing which Bridget Riley has done for exhibitions, and I believe later on there's writing, sort of essayistic writing about other artists, which is going to be quite fascinating as well. But it starts off with sort of autobiographical background, and she talks about her upbringing in Cornwall during the war. And that's really interesting because she talks about how she was sort of enamoured with the landscape of Cornwall, the huge coastlines and the small coastlines and the hills and the vast skies, and how that. I don't think she talks about this explicitly, but it makes you think how that relates to what she eventually becomes, or what she eventually starts to paint, which is art based on minimal colours and geometrical shapes. If I can just show you a couple examples. So that one is, well, show you that, for example. This is a typical example of her work, and more sort of optical illusions kind of things. One of I had a comment on my last book haul when I talked about this from Heather Gregg, who is a relatively new channel, a wonderful new channel in fact, and she's clearly very well versed and educated in the world of art, and and I highly recommend. I'll link down below, but you can tell from watching it she's very passionate and talented with editing her videos as well. You'll see what I mean when you watch them. But she told me that to really appreciate Bridget Riley, you have to. I mean, it's the same with any artist really, but especially Bridget Riley, you have to see them in person, because her paintings are so vast. And she said, pay attention to the sizes of the paintings, because but unfortunately, they don't, unless there's, it might do in the back actually, but it tells you the title and the date they were painted, but it doesn't tell you what size the canvas is in this edition. But even just on the page, looking at the paintings, and if you just relax your focus, unfocus your eyes, and just like let yourself sink into the painting, they're quite effective and powerful, especially when you read the contextual stuff around it. Although I would very much love to go and see the paintings in person. It reminds me in a way of Mark Rothko. I read a Mark Rothko biography last year, if I can remember. James B. Breslin, I think, is the author. I've just looked behind me. Which turned out to be one of my favourite reads for last year, actually. It was a fantastic book, brilliantly written book. And again, Mark Rothko's paintings, you can't really appreciate them just from from looking at them in a book. You have to go into a room where they're being presented, and with the proper lighting, and just immerse yourself in the vastness of them, and immerse yourself in the atmosphere of the paintings. So a similar thing with Bridget Riley. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and I have got that other book, which is by Robert Kodielka, about Bridget Riley. So I may very well jump straight into that when I finish this. I've no reason. I can't see any reason why I wouldn't do that at this stage. And so the novel I'm currently reading. This is Jump the Queue, is from my woman translation TBR. This is my friends lent this to me. I didn't even know he had this or had read it. Well, I don't remember anyway. Elizabeth Strout's O. William, which I think is long-listed for the Booker. But I always forget this, but Elizabeth Strout is actually just one of my favourite contemporary writers. I just love everything she does. I think I've read 5 or maybe 6 of her novels now. And this is a Lucy Barton novel. She seems to be alternating between Lucy Barton novels and Olive Kitteridge novels. I think she's got one coming out soon about Olive Kitteridge. But I literally just dipped my toes into this morning, so I'm only about 10 pages in. But already I'm fully immersed. I'm in the Elizabeth Strout multiverse. I absolutely love it. I love her style. I love her subject matter. And Lucy Barton is a novelist. The character Lucy Barton is a novelist, and I'm an absolute sucker for any book or film which features or is about a novelist, or writer. So already, I'm in love. But from what I can tell so far, she's getting on in age and has adult children. And William, the titular William, was her first husband, who she's sort of reconnecting with, I think. And I think that we'll take it from there. And yeah, I can't wait to read the rest of this. So yeah, that concludes my sort of reading update. So as always, if you've read any of these or would like to read any of these, let me know, and I'll talk to you in the comments below. So thank you very much for watching.